Middle school lesson, we will write a comparison essay for The Open Boat and a poem titled Sea Fever. And you can find this printable in the video description at the bottom. So if we go to our open boat, this would be our part 1 lesson. We read The Open Boat and then we answered our 2 written responses. We are going to be comparing the narrators. Here we have, how does the point of view toward the ocean in Excerpt from the Open Boat differ from the point of view toward the ocean in Sea Fever? You guys remember, Sea Fever, our narrator, he was very excited to get to the ocean. He simply could not wait. He was saying, I must go down to the seas again, to the vagrant gypsy life. He says this, I must go down to the seas again, several times. Well, 3 times throughout our poem. And in the Excerpt from the Open Boat, Stephen Crane's story is much different. We have these 4 individuals lost at sea after a boat accident in their larger ship, and now they're in this tiny little dinghy boat, and the seawater is incredibly rough, and they are not doing well in the open boat. So now if we're writing a comparison essay here, we would want to start by introducing both texts. All right, so here we have, I've started this as a very, very basic essay here. So the first things first, the very basic, you always want to make sure that you're giving your title and author in your introduction paragraph. So much like we've been talking about restating the question, your introduction of any essay assigned like this is really just a restating of the question, which since the question is longer, your paragraph will be longer here. So we have the ocean is seen as a dangerous and scary enemy. Now, if we have here, that is most definitely the point of view. So the point of view of our narrator in the open boat, this narrator is scared of the sea, okay? Well, it's a third-person narrator, and he's telling the story of the characters being scared of the sea. Because then when we have Sea Fever, now we have a speaker that loves the sea. So these 2 different attitudes are shown through the narrator's points of view in each text. So now when you choose to talk about point of view here, and that would be building the tone. So tone is the attitude toward in the text, but in this case you're saying the attitude toward the ocean, but we can talk about tone because tone has to do with an author's attitude, so we can add that in as we go. But this would be a very basic introduction where we introduce the open boat, introduce the poem Sea Fever, and we put the ocean is seen as something exciting and beautiful that the speaker loves. So those would be our 2 very different points of view. These 2 different attitudes are shown through the narrator's points of view in each text. And then that would be what we're going to explain in each paragraph. So when you're doing a comparison essay, you just simply make 1 paragraph about the one story and then 1 paragraph about the other text or story, but in this case, it's a poem. So here we have, in the open boat, the men are afraid of the ocean because it is powerful and cruel. The story is set in rough waters off Florida. The boat is tiny like a bathtub, and the waves are described as barbarously abrupt and tall. These details show that the ocean is a threat to human life and makes the men feel helpless. Let's say something about their faces being gray, because that certainly is not a good sign of their health here. And here, if they had had leisures, there were other things to occupy their minds. So in Sea Fever, the speaker there seems to have like a leisurely trip on his mind. But here, they are definitely fighting for survival. So I actually might change, these details show that the ocean is a threat to human life and makes the men feel helpless. I might add another, we could say, an attitude toward the ocean. So here we could write, here I ended this with something about the conflict as well. I'm saying the characters in the open boat face a deadly adversary against the ocean. So the conflict creates a terrifying tone because the narrator sees unsure if the crew will survive. So in here, I'm adding a little bit about the tone. It's terrifying because our sea fever tone is most definitely not terrifying. Because in that story, or in that poem, here we have it here. In Sea Fever, the speaker has a very different attitude, we could say, towards the sea. He loves the ocean and feels pulled towards it. He says the call of running tide is a wild call and a clear call that cannot be denied. He also repeats, I must go down to the seas again. These lines showed the ocean as something exciting and freeing, not scary. We also have here, so I've added the lines. He also repeats, I must go down the seas again. Lines 1, 5, 10. Then we'll say, these lines showed the ocean as something exciting and freeing, which creates an adventurous, exciting tone. I might even add the speaker. You could, well, in our closing here. So now if we're saying it's an exciting tone, we could say the speaker's desire, an attitude towards the ocean creates a positive feeling. Because in the other one, the attitude towards the ocean is certainly not a positive one. So if we said the speaker's joy of visiting the ocean the speaker's joy of visiting the ocean brings positivity. Whereas we just want to stick to our Sea Fever poem here. So we could say the speaker's joy of visiting the ocean brings positivity. The speaker's joy of visiting the ocean brings a positive tone of sea adventures. So we could say that would just be one for this, because this was a short poem. So as long as we're saying something, we use our 2 lines, and we're talking about how the speaker's tone and the speaker's point of view towards the ocean is positive. And in our final paragraph, we just pull it all together. The difference in attitude is clear from the way each writer describes the ocean. Crane uses scary details and a fearful tone to show danger. We could say uses scary details, we'll say here, to build the conflict, and a fearful tone to show danger. Masefield uses happy repeating words and lively images to show the love and adventure. In the end, one text makes the ocean feel like a deadly enemy, while the other makes it feel like a wonderful friend. Basically, in the one, the characters, they probably will never go to the ocean again, right? I could even add that. You could say, readers readers of the open boat may have the feeling that they never want to take a trip to the open seas. However, readers of Sea Fever might view the ocean in a very positive light after reading. So both the story, The Ocean Boat, and Sea Fever have different, you could say, perspectives on the ocean. Whereas Crane, he might see the ocean as an incredibly fearful place, and Masefield sees the ocean as somewhere that is pleasant, adventurous, exciting, even maybe relaxing. So that is how you can answer an essay like this. Whenever you have a comparison essay, really the most important thing is in your introduction paragraph, you always want to titles and authors of who you're comparing. And then in your body paragraph 1, you're comparing the one story. Body paragraph 2, focus on the other story. And then when you get to your closing, you're just summarizing what you've said in your first paragraph, second paragraph, and third paragraph. It's just a nice, neat summary, restating what you've said and restating your answers of our questions. So in here, we made sure to identify the attitude towards the ocean. And by attitude, that's why we use so many terms like fearful, dangerous, and then in the other for Sea Fever, we're using tones like exciting, freeing, adventurous, joyful. All of those are positive attitudes. Attitude is just like an emotion. So that's what we were doing for our essay here. And this is a comparative essay, our part 3 of our ocean we could call this an ocean writing unit, I guess. We had the open boat and sea fever. And if you'd like more lessons like this, please leave a comment below on what grade level you'd like to see or what skills you would like to work on more.